Hey guys, so today we're going to try and do some Python exercises. So I have a bunch of Python exercises with me at the moment. You can find that in this particular website, w3resource.com /Python exercises. This website is basically part of W3 schools. So if you go into the exercises home, you can see that you have a bunch of exercises. So today I'm going to be taking Python Basic Part 1, which has 150 exercises. We're going to try a few of these 150 exercises today. One of the cool things about this particular website is that you can go to the editor and you can type in your Python code here. So which means you don't have to install Python in your machine, and you don't have to go through all the steps that you have to usually do to install Python, then install an IDE like PyCharm, like I have. So this is kind of easy to get going right away. So we're going to do that right now, and we're going to solve some of these exercises and see what we can learn from it. So this is very beginner friendly. So if I look at first few questions here, this is very beginner friendly, and let's go through each one of them. I will have this editor open right here. Let me maximize that. I think that's enough. So, and if I go here, I can see the questions. Some of these problems I don't know how to do, and because I don't exactly remember all the syntaxes that are available in Python. So in that case, I will be Googling them. And the most important thing is, of course, that we get the job done. And that's what we're going to try with these basic exercises. So let's get ahead now. And first question is, write a Python program to print the following string in a specific format. Sample string, twinkle twinkle little star, and we have to basically print it in this format. This is basically a hello world problem, but you have to make sure that you format these strings correctly. As you can see here, you have a tab space. You have 2 tab spaces in the 3rd line and 2 in the 4th line, none in the 5th line, and the 6th line there is 1 tab space. So let's just copy this text into our editor. And we are going to surround it with print. So if you have ever done Python, you would be familiar with the print keyword. So I'm just going to print it right now, and we'll see how it goes. It's pretty simple. We just wrap this around a print, and the strings, if you're trying to make strings, they need to be around this double quotes. And if we run this now, you can see it's showing twinkle twinkle little star and all those things, but we need to have these tab spaces too, right? So how would I do that? So if I have /t, it should actually create a tab space. And in the let's try this out first. If I run this, yeah, you can see that there's a tab space in here. So what we need for the 3rd and 4th line is we need 2 tab spaces, and the 6th line has a single tab space. And you can see here that the tab spacing is correct. So that's our first problem. So moving on to the second one, write a Python program to get the Python version you're using. So I'm just going to clear out this editor now, and run this to clear out the output as well. And the next program that we have to do is to write a Python program to get the Python version that we are using. So I actually know how to do this, so I'm just going to do that. So to get the Python system information, what we need to do is we need to import a module called sys. And once we do that, we can use something called sys.version to get the Python version that we're going to use, that we are using. So it just prints the Python version that we're using and all the related details as well. So that's the second question. That's pretty easy again. So if you don't know how this is how to get the Python version, you should just Google it. This information is available if you Google it. So this is a pretty good way to learn Python, by solving these simple problems. So from what I understand is that I think that as the problems progress, we're going to have more complex things, but I believe this whole set is for beginners, so it should be fine. So the third problem is write a Python program to display the current date and time. So I've done this in my short video series Learning Python in 30 days. So basically we can do this using another module that we will need to import, and it's something called datetime. Once you import datetime, we need to create an object of the current date. We can do that using datetime.now. Again, I remember the syntax for this one. I may not remember for everything. So if you don't know the syntax, you just Google it and try things out, right? So you don't get stopped just because you don't know the syntax. It's no big deal. In a work environment, you're always going to be not knowing your syntaxes, and you're going to be Googling a lot. Yeah, so we have the current date, and if I print the current date here, what's gonna happen is it should be printing the current date. Yeah, we can see this. If I look at the problem here, you can see that it only has date time until seconds. It doesn't have this part, so we need to remove that. So how would I do that? There is a function called str of time for every date. Str of time. Inside it, we can give the format that we want. So each of these elements in the date has a particular format code. So if I print %y in here, it's gonna print 2021, which is the year. Now if I need the month, I'm gonna print I think it's %m, and if I print it now, as you can see, it's a small m, lowercase m. Yeah, so as you can see, it's February, and we're going to print this. This is the month. So just like this, you can get all the information that we need in here, but we have to understand what are the format codes, right? And you can do that by just simply Googling. Yep, so we're just gonna search Python calendar format, Python datetime format actually. And if I come down here, I can see all the format codes that are in the W3 Schools website. And if I go in here, I can see the format, and the month representation is the lowercase m, and we have the day, which is lowercase d, and we have the hours, minutes, and the seconds. So I'm just going to remember that and type it in here. T followed by uppercase H, %m, and this one is actually supposed to be printed like this, because you can see right here it's not hyphen in between. So let's just run this now. Let's see if this matches the format that they're expecting. As you can see clearly, this is the format that we're expecting. Moving on, we have the fourth question. Write a Python program which accepts the radius of a circle from the user and compute the area. So if you have done some math before, you will know that area of a circle equals pi times radius times radius. So basically that's what we need to do in this case. So to get the pi, which is a constant, it's 3.14 blah blah blah. So to get that, this is actually available in our math module in Python. So we need to import math module, and then we can accept the radius from the user. To accept the radius, to accept any input from the user, we need to use the input function, and inside the input function we're just going to say the prompt for the user, enter the radius. And first what we're going to do is let's just print the radius right here. Let's see, so it's coming in, enter the radius, it says. I'm going to say 1, and it's just printing the radius, which is one that I entered. But what we really need to do is we need to calculate the area. So we're going to create a variable called area, and then we're going to say math.pi times radius, which is our formula, and then we're going to print the area. This is actually going to create an issue here. Hang on. Yep, you can see the issue here is that cannot multiply sequence by non-int of type float. The reason here is that the radius in this case is actually a string, so anytime I get an input from the user, it is actually going to be a string. So even though this is a 1, Python thinks that this is a string of 1, so it's not something you can multiply it with other floating point values. So in this case, let's try to make this into an integer, right? A number, right? So int is an option, so let's try this. I'm gonna say 1.1. so this is not really a 1.1. So what we're going to do is we need to make this float, because this will be becoming a float value at some point. And here you can see the value that's coming correctly for 1.1. we have 3.801 blah 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 504. You can see that here it's 3.801 blah 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 504. So that's our answer. Moving on to the next question. Write a Python program which accepts the user's first name and last name and print them in reverse order with the space between them. So what we need to do is we need to do the same thing here. We don't need the math module in this one. We're going to accept an input from the user. So let's just say first name, right? We can say first name, and it's going to be an input that we take from the user saying first name, enter first name, and then we're going to say last name, and it's also going to be an input we take from the user. We're going to say last name, and then we're going to print last name first, and then we're going to put a space, and then we're going to print first name. This is a fairly simple one and a fast one to understand. So first we need to enter, well, let's just say friendly, last name is coder, and we're going to get coder friendly, and I think that's the answer that they were expecting. So we have printed this in reverse order of what we took the input from the user. So sixth problem is write a Python program which accepts a sequence of comma separated numbers from the user and generate a list and a tuple with those numbers. So we're going to accept a string from input again, from the user again. So let's create a comma list. So this is a variable that we're going to take the input into. So enter comma separated numbers. So we have the comma list. What we're going to do next is we need to get this into a list variable. Okay, so we need to make it to generate a list from this comma separated list stuff, and then we need to make those into a tuple as well. So so a list and a tuple are basically two different ways in Python to represent multiple items into a single variable. So they both have very different behaviors. If you had a go through the learning Python in 30 days, I had separate days where I was focusing on list and tuples. I think each of them had like 6 days in it, so you can probably check them out if you want. But basically what we're going to do first is we're going to take the input from the user and we're just going to print it. So the input will look something like this. So 3 comma 5 comma 2, then we just print it. So this is basically just a string here. What we need is to create a list, right? So we're going to create something called list1, and we're going to split this string into separate values and assign it to this list. So to do that, we'll call the split command, split function I mean, and then we're going to enter comma. So this tells that we need to split this string into multiple strings having you need to separate it by comma. So whenever we find a comma, we are going to take what we have so far and put it into the list. Now if we print the list1, now if we print 352, I messed up. And you can see that this is part of the string right now. I mean, this is part of the list right now. So that's what we have here. We have 352, which is a list now. Now, how do we make this into a tuple, right? So a tuple is basically just like this, but it's going to be represented by parentheses at the end instead of square brackets. So what we can do, the easiest way to convert a list to a tuple is, let's just create a tuple1 variable, and we're going to make tuple of list1. Then we're going to print tuple1, and this should be printing our tuple and our list as well. So like this, you can see this one is a list, and then we turned it into a tuple. Yep, so that's what we're seeing here as output as well. So 7th problem is, write a Python program to accept a file name from the user and print the extension of that. So sample file name is abc.java. So let's just accept a file name from the user, right? So get file name equals input of enter a file name. And now we're going to say that we need to get the extension from it. So that's anything that comes after the dot, right? So the best thing I can think of is, we need to be careful about a couple of things. So abc.java.java, in this case, if we split the string with a dot, we will get a list of 2 strings, right? First one will be abc, the second one will be java. But if in Windows, if we do abc.java.cbp, it is a valid file name, by the way, and in this case we need to take the third one. So basically what we need to do is the last one from the list that we split into. So that's what we need. So let's just file parts list. That's what we're going to do, and then we're going to do file name dot split of dot, and then we're going to just print file parts list for the moment. Let's see what happens here. abc.java, you can see abc and java. So in this case we could kind of think that well, the second one is the extension, so that's not really true. So if we give something like abc.java.cpp, in this case the third one is the correct answer. So what we need to do is to find the last element and print that instead. So how do we do that? There's an easy way to do this in Python. If we put -1, which is the negative indexing, right? So Python has negative indexing, so if we put -1, we'll get the last one. If we put -2, we'll get the second from the last one. So in this case we need -1, and if we print that, we're going to say abc.java, we're going to get java, and if we say abc.java.cpp, then we're going to get cpp, which is the right answer. So we're going to move on to the next question now, which is write a Python program to display the first and last colors from the following list. So let's just copy this list right now. It's having red, green, white, and black. So we have this. Now how would I print the first element, right? So print first will be color list of 0. This is pretty simple, right? So the 0th index is the first element of the list, so we just print first is that. What's the last element? We just learned from the last problem that we can print the last element using the negative indexing, which is the easiest trick. So let's just put -1, and it should actually print black. As you can see, it's correctly printing black. So we can move on to the next question now. Write a program to display the examination schedule. Extract the date from exam st date. So we have a tuple here called exam st date, and we're first going to copy that into our problem here, and then if we go on to the sample output here, we need to print something like the examination will start from 11/12/2014. So basically we just changed how this looks like, right? So there's a good way to do that, right? So what we need is the output should be looking like this. So we need the output string. So first we're going to create the output str, which is basically a string that we're going to print, and we're going to say, I'm just going to move this over so you can see. So it says 11/12/2014, and what we're going to do is we're going to put this against curly braces, okay, and we're going to put 0, and we're going to put 1. We don't really need to put anything, right? So we just give this in order, and you're just going to put it like this. And then we are going to do something else. Then we're going to call a function called, inside this we are going to print a function. Let's just try and run this first. I think nothing really happens because we didn't really print anything. But what if we print something right here? Okay, it's just printing this, but we need these things coming in, right? So first what we can do is we can assign these values to separate variables. So we can do that by creating a tuple of our own with the correct values. So we have date, month, and year, and if we simply assign it to exam st date, what we're going to get is 11 will get assigned into day, 12 will get assigned into month, 2014 will get assigned into year. So if we print this, we could easily print this, right? So basically what we want is to have the day come here, and month come here, and year comes here. I mean, there is a way to do that using the plus operator, like we've seen throughout my explanations here, but there is a way to format strings that I want to show you. If we use the format function here, then we can say it like this: day, month, year. What is going to happen is the day is going to replace the first curly braces. Let's see if that works. See? So you can see right here that the first curly braces is replaced by the first parameter inside the format function. Second is replaced by the second in the format function. So the 10th problem, I guess this will be the last problem for today, and we'll be having more questions on this later on. So to solve this, we have to write a Python program that accepts an integer n and computes a value of n plus nn plus nnn. So if we have something like 5 here, so we need to solve n plus nn plus, so we'll copy that, and we'll just have it as a comment here. So suppose n equals 5. I'm just going to clear the output for now. So if n equals 5, we need to find 5. If n equals 5, we need to find 5 plus 5, 5 plus 5, 5, 5, which is equal to, let's see, 555 plus 55 becomes 610, then we get 615. So that's what we need to find. So how do we do that? So first we need to get the input from the user. So we get n equals input, enter an integer. And then we need to construct another string. First we'll construct nn, which will be n plus n. Remember that this will actually not make it 5 plus 5, 10, because this is actually a string right now. If we had put an int here, the story would be very different, but in this case it's just a string. So here what will happen is if we enter 5, it will get 55, nn equal to 55 at this point. Similarly, we need to do this. And now the easiest part is to just print a sum. Now, well, we'll put the sum in a different variable so you can clearly see what's happening. So first we need to convert the string n into integer. So we do that using this. And then we'll convert to integer like this. And then we just print that sum. So this is very straightforward stuff. If I get 5, you'll get 615. And that's the answer. So thanks for watching this video. It's been quite long. I will be coming back to complete more of these problems. So make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you want me to do more. And please feel free to get back to me if you have any questions. I am fncoder in Instagram. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and also send this to someone who might actually need this. See you soon.